lot, my friends and the esteemed and enlightened delegates from ministries and the different government initiatives. I'll take next 10 minutes to make things interesting from the security point of view. And I believe I'm on, okay, thank you. So I'll talk about the cues which have been taken by the previous speakers, you know, whether they're from the ministries or from the security vendors or the networking vendors. And I'll just take 1 minute. Yeah, I'm up. Yeah, so this is what most of the ICT talking points are, you know, whether it's virtualization or cloud computing or security is changing and threats are expanding, and then we have to save the carbon credits, and the IT has to be green, and the cost of the solution has to be affordable, and so on and so forth. So these are the top 10 talking points which we see across the industry, whether it's a private sector or a public sector or a partnership between private public sector. You know, these are the most common talking points are. And you know, in most of these points, if you see governance and compliance is one of the standards or the requirements which has always been there, whether the security was in 1990s as a requirement or 2000 as a requirement, or now we talk about the decade which has just started. If we move on, this is what most of the analysts say are the top driving trends in the industry in 2011 and so on and so forth. Cloud computing, mobile applications and tablet PCs, Web 2.0, you know, the networking technologies are becoming the order of today, and they are going to pave the way for tomorrow's situation. And after China and India, if somebody has to look for the population, you know, Facebook is the next country, I would say, okay, and Twitter is the 7th largest population in the world. So these are the actual facts, you know, which are, and let me put it here, this is the beginning of Web 2.0 era, and we are seeing Facebook as the 3rd largest country. Imagine if it would have been next 2 years or 3 years, where would this population reach? Now, connecting it to the definition of security, the fundamental of security is connected to an asset and a threat. These are the two fundamentals. And a simple equation can be drawn is that asset will always be targeted by the threat. And that's what exactly is, whether we were in 1990s when the computer just began to proliferate on the net, or whether we are in year of 2000 or 2005 or now in 2011 onwards. The basic difference, what we have seen in the recent trends, is that these reservoirs of the information or the carriers of information are changing from just a PC or a docked machine to a changing devices like this and the tablets. And infrastructure where the information is residing is no more the tape drives or the bulky devices. It's now becoming a cloud probably, you know, or any technology between the fixed devices and the cloud. So this is what the definition of asset is changing. If the definition of asset is changing, obviously threat also has to change its face, because threat is always following the asset, and that's what is we are seeing. Now threat is no more a single dimensional or an atomic attack. It's compound in nature. And the objectives of attacking the infrastructure are changing. Previously, it might have been connected to just getting a fame. You know, I have compromised the device, so let me have a fame. I have defaced somebody's website, I will get a fame. But now these objectives are also changing. These objectives are becoming like, you know, they are getting connected to a cyber warfare. They are connecting to the terrorism which is state-sponsored, and so on and so forth. And particularly the region in which we exist, you know, it's a very, very fundamentally a region which is surrounded by two very interesting neighbors of ours. And they are not just targeting our infrastructure, but they are also targeting the growth with which we are growing. So all these are changing the facets of threats. And if I source this data from, this data is sourced from FBI, this is not the IT data, that the revenues which are connected to the cyber attacks or the actual threats of embezzlement have exceeded the revenues which are connected to drug trafficking. So this is a worldwide trend, and this has been sourced from FBI. Now, more and more, you know, we get into the convergence, or more and more we are seeing the definition of assets being changing. What we are seeing is the newer avenues of threat getting added. So this is a new phase of threat, which is not attacking the infrastructure, which is not compromising the citizen services, but leaking the citizen data. or leaking any other confidential data, which could be a credit card information or a bank card information or so on and so forth. So these are certain statistics which have been picked, that 81% of the companies which were not PCI compliant but doing the business over the wire got compromised in the previous years, and so on and so forth. So there is a loss of data by the virtue of just a mail itself is 20% on the wire. And these are all statistics which are there, they can distinguish between, country to country, but I believe the way India Inc. is, there's no distinction from the global trends versus what we are having. And the third avenue of threat which is getting attached or getting more and more prevalent is the proliferation of Web 2.0. More and more we are using Web 2.0, more and more we are using networking integrated sites or collaborative integration sites for the sake of our business. Basically, this is leading to more and more opportunities for threat to find some ways to get sneaked into the network. And these are some analyst data that 23% of the time which the user spends these days today in the organization or during the office hours is on the net. And the content of 100 most popular sites, 45% of their data, as per economists, is the content which is not business related. It is user driven. It could be movie, it could be a video of a child, birth, or a marriage which I attended, and so on and so forth. So all this content is contributing to 60% of the malware on the net. Imagine. So this is the very trivial statistics, which makes the things more and more complex to handle with the Web 2.0 proliferation. Now, if this is what we are in, now how to take this challenge? Understanding the actual weakest link and the technology gap is a two-dimensional approach which we would like to take. And if we do this way, we are able to handle this problem and analyze it. So the weakest link, let's understand, in the changing trends is becoming more and more the end user or the person or the people. Then another weakest link which brings down the security in most of the projects is the need for performance. How to deliver the networks as is or as at a click of the mouse. So this is a performance expectation, and what gets compromised in that sense of performance is at times the security need. So this is what are the two weakest important links which needs to be addressed, and if we plan these important things into the consideration, we are able to take things forward. And now comes a very important technology gaps. The gaps which exist in technology is that most of the policies which get defined for these security devices are very close to technology than being close to people or the business. That is where the problem comes, because I don't have to make my end user come closer to define the security policy. Rather, I should make technology so adaptable that it can understand the needs of the end user. So that's what exactly we see as a gap in the most of the technologies available of the day. And last but not the least, the devices are generating data. They are not giving intelligence. And what we need today is not the data of 2 GB of log in the end of the day, but the intelligence. And intelligence is that only one flight in 2 million flights taking in 1 year in JFK has hit the World Trade Center. So that's the reality of intelligence. So if we can save that, that's what we need to get the information out of the data which we are getting. So addressing these gaps, what we have to do is we have to realign our approach, that the solutions which we are taking should be able to handle these two-dimensional challenges which we have talked about. One, they should be able to handle the weakest link, and the other, they should be able to handle the technology gaps. So what is the way to move forward? To handle this, we need the policies which are closer to the business, which are closer to the user understanding, and which can have the adaptability to come and understand the needs of user in the changing times of needs. Then, the policies or the security controls which take users or the people or the end systems into accountability. They should make the systems to engage rather than just informing that, okay, you are not allowed to go there because this is what is the corporate policy, or this is what is the ICT policy. Rather, they should be engaged in making such decisions. They should be asked, because 60% or 70% of the interactions on the network, what the user does, if you liberate them, if you make them accountable for that, they can contribute to the security much better. And I can take a very simple example here. The most successful policing model is a model where police is supported by the resident welfare associations. So that's what we believe. If you make the resident welfare associations accountable for security, that's where the process comes. And that's what we mean by this. And the last part of my discussion is that by default, yes, we are a vendor, a security company, or many other security companies do exist with us as peers in the industry. Obviously, all these has to come with some enforcement. Some tools have to be deployed, and that tools have to be multidimensional in nature, and the tools which can build the framework that can adapt the policies and the people needs with the growing changing times. And what we call it as a checkpoint three-dimensional security strategy, which as a product vendor has to not only take care of the security controls, but the security controls that have the policies which are closer to the people, the policies which are closer to the business, and so on and so forth. So this is what is a mission or the vision for Checkpoint from this year onwards. And every product which we are shipping now from our production house and the R&D, it is all aligned to this strategy. And I sincerely thank you all for listening to me for the last 10 minutes. And thank you very much for war again.